Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this adorable Christmas stocking advent calendar. These little stockings work up super fast and just use tiny amounts of yarn, so they are a great stash busting project. But of course, you can use whatever colors of yarn you'd like for yours. And yes, if you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, they're available over on my website, secretyarnery.com. And you don't have to worry about being able to read a pattern. All of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. Included in this written pattern are these cute numbered little presents. They just cut out and slide right into each stocking to help you count down for Christmas. But of course, you are welcome to add a cute chocolate or a sweet into each stocking as well. If English isn't your first language, you can find your preferred subtitles by clicking on this little button right here underneath the video. And for these stockings, you will need 3 different colors of yarn. I am using Savor from Ice Yarns. It is a 4 worsted weight acrylic yarn, or a 10 ply if you are in Australia. I will be using a 5.5mm crochet hook for all of my Christmas tutorials, just so I remember green goes with green, but you can use whatever hook size goes along with the yarn you are using. You'll also need a pair of scissors, a needle for sewing in only one of your ends. You will also need 3 stitch markers, preferably 2 of one color and 1 of a second color. If you don't have stitch markers, you could also use paper clips or even just scraps of yarn. Here are the timestamps so you can jump back into where you left off, and let's get started. To make your advent calendar, we're going to start by making 24 stockings. So to make a stocking, just grab your first color of yarn and make a slip knot any which way you normally do. Shrink that down and pop it onto your hook. You don't need too much of a long tail. We're going to crochet over it. So just a short tail will work. And chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to go into this very first chain we made right there, right on top of our slip knot. Just right there, slide it in. We want to make a U shape underneath our hook, just like that. So we're going to hold it open with our finger and thumb and slip stitch to form a ring and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So this counts as our first double crochet. And 1 more double crochet into the center of our ring, still holding it open with our finger and thumb. We don't want to let go. We always want to be working into the very center of that ring. And chain 2. 1 and 2. Wrap your yarn and make 2 more double crochets into the center of your ring. Now it'll stay open on its own so we can let go a little bit. So 2 double crochets. Chain 2, 1, 2, and 2 more double crochets into the center of your ring. There is 1 and 2, chain 2, and 2 double crochets into the center of our ring. So we're going to do this. We want a total of 6 pairs of double crochets with a chain 2 in between. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4. If you run out of space, just grab your first stitches and your last stitches and slide your new stitches back. That will give you more space around the center of your ring. And just remember to work over your tail. So chain 2 and 2 double crochets into the center of the ring. Just like that. Chain 2. And our last set of 2 double crochets. Remember to slide your stitches back. We want all of our stitches laying nice and flat, side by side. So there is 1 and 2, chain 2, 1 and 2, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 to join. So right there on the side, right beside the top of our double crochet, we are going to slip stitch to join and chain 1. So just make sure you have 6 pairs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we are ready to keep going. So you can cut your yarn, pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. And that finishes round 1. Looking for more left-handed crochet tutorials? There are more than 160 of my easy left-handed tutorials in this playlist right here. To start round 2, insert your hook into any space, just not where we already have our tail, this tail here. So I go into the space before, but you could go into any space at all. Loop of your new color on your hook. Bring it through and slip stitch with both strands to join, and drop your tail just holding it along the side of your work, and chain 2. 1 and 2. This counts as our first double crochet, and into the very same space make 2 more double crochets. 1 and 2. Into the next space, or wherever you get to your tail, bring your tail forward so we can work over it a little bit. And into this next space, right there, we're going to start with 3 treble crochets. So wrap your yarn twice, and into the next space, 3 treble crochet. There is 1, 2, and 3, chain 2, 1 and 2, and 3 more double crochets into that same space. So just wrap your yarn once and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1 and 2. Wrap your yarn twice, and into the very same space, 3 treble crochets. There's 1, here is 2, and here is 3. Just like that. So we have 2 corners where we've done trebles and doubles, just mirroring each other. That is going to help the shape of our stocking. So right now you want to go and get 2 stitch markers and pop your stitch markers into the center of those 2 corners that we just made. We just want to make sure we know where they are when we are coming around. These are always going to be bigger corners. Now into each of the next spaces all the way around, each of the next 3 spaces, these guys right there, we're just going to do regular corners. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets into each of the next 3 corners, or the next 3 spaces. So there is 1 and 2. Here is 3. Chain 2. Slide those stitches back if you need some more room, and 3 more double crochets into the same space. We're just turning all of these spaces into corners. Just like that. So we have 2 more spaces to go. Each of those spaces, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So there is 2. Here is 3, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into that same space. 1, 2, and 3. And now we just have 1 space left, this little guy there. So we're going to do the same thing, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets into the same space. So there is our 3 double crochets. And if I'm going too fast, just hit that gear down below and slow me down. And if I'm going too slow, you can also speed me up. So just get that last 3 double crochets into that space. Just like that, and now we are back into the corner where we began. So slide those stitches forward to give yourself some more room, and 3 double crochets into that first space where we began. So 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1, and 2, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 to join. We want 2 strands of that chain on the top of our hook, and it is right beside our double crochet. So our double crochet is right here. We want to go in to that chain right beside, and that's just going to pull it up and turn it into a nice looking stitch. So pop your hook in, 2 strands of that chain on the top of your hook, and slip stitch to join, and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to tie later, or of course you could sew it in also if you feel like it. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. So these 2 stitch markers mark where we have done our treble crochets. That is the top of our stocking. We also want to mark the center bottom. So here is the top where we did our treble crochets. We also want to mark the center bottom, just this space right there in between those stitches. Just mark that one. We want to do something a little special when we get to each of these stitch markers. So that finishes round 2. To start round 3, we're going to work into this very first corner space where our first stitch marker is, right there. So just pop your hook in, and you can take that stitch marker out. Loop of your new color yarn on your hook. Bring it through and slip stitch with both strands to join, and drop your tail just holding it along the top edge of your work, and chain 2. 1 and 2. Into this very same space, 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Into this center space right here, we're going to do 4 double crochets. Just in between those stitches, just into that space, 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Into the next space with our stitch marker, we're going to do a special corner. So special corners, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1, and 2. You can take that stitch marker out now. And 3 treble crochets. So wrap your yarn twice and 3 treble crochets into that same space, just to finish the top of our stocking, or to work on the top of our stocking. So wrapping your yarn twice for those treble crochets. Just like that. Now into the side, we're going to do 3 double crochets into that space along the side. 3 double crochets. There is 1, 2, and 3. And now into our corner space, right there, we're going to do 4 double crochets. So instead of corners, we're going to do bends. So a bend is just 4 double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. into the spot along the side, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and into the corner space, we're going to do a bend. So 4 double crochets into the corner space. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we have our stitch marker, so this is going to be the absolute toe of our stocking. So we're going to do a bend here also. We're going to do 4 double crochets into this space. So 4 double crochets into that space. There is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And into the corner, also 4 double crochets. So the bottom of the stocking gets our bends all the way around the bottom. So 4 double crochets into this corner space. Just like that. And now we're back to regular, so 3 double crochets into the space along the side, and a bend of 4 double crochets into the corner space. So 3 double crochets into the space along the side. There's 1, 2, and 3, and into the corner space. I'm going to work over that tail, so I'm just going to hold it forward and just make my 4 double crochets right over top of it. So there is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now into the space along the side, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now into the space where we began, you can just slide those stitches forward to give yourself some more room. And we're going to finish with 3 treble crochets. So wrap your yarn twice and into the same space where we began, 3 treble crochets. There is 1. Remember to wrap your yarn twice for a treble. There is 2. And here is 3. So it looks like that so far. Now we're going to do something very interesting here. So into the top of that chain 3, the same spot we've been joining for the whole stocking, we're going to go right into that same stitch, but we're going to join with a double crochet. So wrap your yarn and into the top of that chain, 2 strands of that chain on the top of your hook, 1 double crochet to join. Now make a bigger loop, just so it doesn't fall out, we don't lose our stitch. Turn your work over, and we're just going to do our tails while we can. If you worked over your tail in the beginning, you can just cut that off because we worked over it. And now you can take your second color and just give it a loose knot. You can also sew in your tails if you would like to, or if you're selling these, depending on what you want to do. So shrink it down, and then the third time I knot it, that's the one I pull really snug. So you are welcome to sew in your tails if you feel like it, depending on what you are using these for, how often you're going to be using them, who you're giving them to, all those things. So I am just going to be cutting off my tails after I give them a knot. And now these 2 tails here, I'm also going to knot those together. So a loose knot just to hold it in place. And second knot, like that. I'm not going to pull it too tight yet because I don't want to shrink anything down, but the third time, now I'm really going to pull it snug. And then just cut off your tails. And now we are ready to join it into a stocking. want to form your stocking, just fold it in half. So our top is still up here. Our bigger corners are at the top. We're just going to fold it in half and find that first corner space. We just want to insert our hook right into that corner space. We want to find the loop of yarn at the back. So pop that onto your hook and shrink it down. And I'll find the corner space on that back side. Just pop your finger in so it matches up with where your hook is. Bring that yarn through and slip stitch to join. And chain 1 and 1 single crochet into that same space, or both of those same spaces. We want to make sure we are in the corner on both sides. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and 1 more single crochet into that same corner space of both sides, just like that. So that's our little hanging tag at the top of our calendar. Now wiggle your fingers into the next space on both sides. So after our 3 double crochets on both sides, and that'll help line up our stitches. We're going to be going in to each pair. So each pair of stitches, 4 loops or 4 strands on your hook. We're going to be going in to the first pair, right there, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet into the next pair, and 1 single crochet into the next pair. Find the next space on both sides, and that helps line up your stitches. So 1 double crochet into each stitch, or each pair of stitches. And then when we get to our heel section where we have our bend, our 4 double crochets, we're going to do our single crochet into the first 2 pair. So into the first pair, 1 single crochet, and into the second pair, 1 single crochet, and now we're going to chain 1. That's just going to help us get around that bend. And now we're going to keep going, 1 single crochet into each pair all the way along until we get to the center of our toe, or the bend at our toe. So 1 single crochet into each pair. You can just go along at your own pace. Don't worry about having to keep up with me. When you get to your bend, 1 single crochet into the first 2 stitches, or the first 2 pairs of stitches. Chain 1, and now 1 single crochet into each pair all the way along the toe of our stocking. Just like that. At the end, we just have those 2 stitches left. So when you pop your hook in, it looks a bit funny, but we are just putting our last single crochet right there, and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in. Pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. So now go ahead and get 23 more stockings done. And when all of your stockings are done, go ahead and sew in this last tail. So just thread your needle and weave it on the back side underneath all these fat stitches. Sharp tip needles really help. They're linked in the description box. But if you have a regular yarn needle, just put it in an extra time, or put it in 3 times. So I'm going to go forward and back. If you have a blunt tip, you can go forward, back, and forward. Just like that. Cut off your tail. And do that for your other 23 stockings. You want a total of 24. When all of your stockings are done and you've sewn in your tail, Go ahead and arrange them in whatever color way you'd like. I just alternated my reds and greens all the way through. Also make sure you have 24, one for the first 24 days of December. So just put those at the top of your work area. Grab whatever color yarn you're going to be using for your chain or for hanging your stockings. I'm going to be using green. And we're going to start by making a slip knot, any which way you normally do. Leave a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. So shrink that down, pop it onto your hook, and chain 15. 1, 2, 3, 13, 14, and 15. And just bring it around. We want the pretty side of our stitches facing up. I'm just going to make a ring, so just slip stitch into that very first chain. Doesn't matter how many strands you get on the top of your hook, just make sure it is not twisted. So slip stitch to form a ring. And chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's our hanging loop and the beginning of our advent calendar. Grab your very first stocking. Put it on top of your working yarn. You want your working yarn behind you. Just slide that onto your hook. Bring your yarn through and make one single crochet to join. And chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Grab your next stocking. We always want our toe facing in the same direction and our hanging tag, our little loop at the top, to be in the same spot. So make sure you're not connecting your stockings upside down. We want the pretty side of our V's facing up, our toe facing in the same direction, and just make sure you're doing that each time. So on top of your working yarn, slide your hook in to that chain space. Bring your yarn through and one single crochet to join, and chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Grab your next stocking. Make sure it's facing the right way up, our toe facing in the same direction. Find that chain space, insert your hook, bring your yarn through, and one single crochet to join, and chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Grab your next stocking, and you'll notice I'm grabbing from this side. That is just so in my mind I know which way I'm working, and I'll show you after I join this one. So one single crochet into that chain space to join. Now if you lay down your stockings, you will see that we started on this side. So that is where this loop is going, and all of our stockings are facing up. If you want more space between your stockings, you can do a larger chain space, but it's also going to be quite long with the 24 stockings. So this is also as close together as you can put them. But if you would like them more spaced out, go ahead and put maybe a chain 7 or a chain 8 in between your stockings. But this works out perfect for me, is just the chain 6. So pause the video, keep working along, doing a chain 6 and a single crochet into your next stocking to join, all the way along until you have joined up all 24 of your stockings. Wondering if anybody else is crocheting in your neighborhood? Join our Friday live chats. It's a place where crocheters and knitters from all over the world come to connect with each other and belong. And yes, you will belong too. See you Friday. When you have joined up all of your stockings, you've joined your last one, chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And grab your stitch marker. We're just going to pop a stitch marker into that last stitch we made, right there. So pop a stitch marker in. Right there. And now we are going to do our chain 15. So this just marks where we're going to slip stitch to form our hanging loop. So go ahead and chain 15. 1, 2, 3, 13, 14, and 15. And now we're going to slip stitch into that stitch where our stitch marker is. And pop it out if it's in our way. We're going to slip stitch to form a ring. Just like that, and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Like that. So cut your yarn, long enough tail to sew in with a needle. Pull your hook up and your yarn through. Snug that down to secure. And now go ahead and thread your needle. And now we're just going to sew in our tail down the back of our chain, just down the back of these camel bumps. Again, sharp tip needle really helps. I'm going to go all the way down to my stocking. Just pull that yarn down and through. Give it a stretch. You don't want it to be smaller than the other side. And now I'm going to go all the way back up, or at least a little bit back up. This is why sharp tip needles really help. You probably just have to go up and down once. With a blunt tip, go down, up, and down again. The sharp tip goes through the fibers. That's why they're so good for sewing in your tails. Now go ahead, cut that off, and do that for your other side as well. And now you are ready to hang it up. You can put the cute little numbers inside each stocking, or even just a candy. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in that video right there, and stay hooked.